So today, we have Sebastian Castellanos from the Evil Within games taking on Joel Miller from the Last of Us games. Who wins? Well, let's find out. So, let's talk about strength, starting with Sebastian. Sebastian has easily shattered wooden crates with his punches, pried open elevator doors, busted through a barricaded door, sent a rolling metal stretcher flying with a kick, crushed skulls with his stomps as well as other body parts, and he even broke chains with a punch as well. But Joel could actively brawl with several zombies and beat each of them to death. Just his bare hands. He could easily brutalize people and even overpower them and zombies when injured or while they had all the leverage. He's easily cracked and crushed skulls. Henry even remarked on how hard he could hit. He's also easily pushed and pulled heavy things like dumpsters, a full-on piano at a high class fancy party or whatnot, and even helped push a pickup truck as well. I'd say Joel has the slight edge here. He's also more brutal. But moving on to durability. Joel walked off falling a few stories down an elevator shaft. He survived falling onto a small metal thing that pierced through his stomach. And he actually recovered after only a few days of rest and some medicine. Well, recovered well enough to save Ellie anyway. He also survived his knee literally being obliterated by a shotgun before he was unfortunately and sadly beat to death. And unnecessarily, too. But Sebastian withstood being cut on the leg by a chainsaw, a car crash and just got back up from it, being slammed through a concrete wall and continued fighting, being sent flying by big monsters, endured being stabbed in the torso as well. I'd say they're fairly even here. Um, Sebastian has more feats, but his greatest feat was being impaled through the torso, which is like being impaled through the stomach, essentially. I don't know. It sounds similar to me. So I'd say they're fairly even there. And now moving on to speed, Joel could run relatively fast for a middle-aged man, and he even dodged a bullet before. But Sebastian dodged attacks from several monsters, even moved several feet and stopped Joseph from shooting himself before Joseph could react while they were looking at each other. Again, it's fairly even. Sebastian might have a slight edge here, but it's close. So physically, Joel is just a tad bit stronger, and Sebastian is just a tad bit faster. I don't think it's anything that's going to be like the major factor in this fight. Now moving on to skill. Sebastian is quite the skilled fighter due to his training as a cop and then as a detective. He quickly and easily took down two Mobius agents while very, very drunk. Like they were nothing. He swiftly just took them down within seconds. Uh, and them being Mobius agents, they probably have some level of skill. We don't know what level of skill, but they have some sort of training somewhere. And he just took them down like they were nothing. But Joel was simply a good brawler. He knew how to throw good, hard punches in quick session. He easily killed 3 cannibals with just his fists while injured. He was also able just to kill multiple zombies and people at once with just his fists or with just a simple melee weapon. He was also good at using his environment to his advantage, like using walls to bash in enemies' skulls and whatnot. So, yeah, Sebastian is the technical better fighter due to his actual training, but I think Joel is just the more effective fighter, definitely the more brutal fighter. Uh, Both also show that they are very stealthy, as both can use obstacles to sneak up or sneak past whole groups of enemies. But I would say Joel is better here because of his His hearing was significantly sharpened to the point he could accurately pinpoint enemies' locations, even through walls and over several meters. Um, in terms of marksmanship, it does kind of depend on the player, but I'd say Sebastian is better due to actually being trained, while Joe just kind of picked it up over time of living in the apocalypse. Speaking of, both will just be carrying their own trusty revolvers for this fight. They both carry a wide arsenal. We don't need that mess in this fight. um, and one last thing I want to talk about, and that is survival skill and experience. Joel survived in his zombie apocalyptic world for about 24 years, as opposed to Sebastian, who is just in this virtual reality simulation twice for a short amount of time. But at the same time, the biggest thing Joel ever fought and killed was a bloater, which doesn't compare to most of the big monsters Sebastian fought and killed. So, who wins? Well, Joel was stronger, more brutal, had his sharpened hearing, and survived for 24 years in his world. Sebastian is technically more skilled, slightly faster, uh, a better marksman, and has killed more bigger, badder monsters, essentially. And let's just up the ante a little bit and say Sebastian thinks Joel has Rose and Joel thinks Sebastian has Ellie. So both are going to stop at nothing to end each other. And with that being included, I have to say this. I know what Sebastian went through in The Evil Within 2 trying to save Rose. Rose. All the monsters and the psychological tricks he went through to save his daughter. This man was willing to run back into a burning building to save his daughter. I get it. But I don't think there's a force in nature that could have stopped Joel head on when Ellie was in danger. I mean, after Ellie was captured by those cannibals, Joel stopped at nothing to get her back, while still very, very injured. He also fought his way through the hospital, through like a small militia of trained fireflies, all to save Ellie's life. Nothing was going to stop him. And yeah, I know, Sebastian fought massive monsters, but only because he had to, because there wasn't another way around them or to sneak past them. Joel would have done the same thing and would actually probably be more willing to fight them to save Ellie. Like if he knew Ellie was behind them, he'd stop at nothing. I just don't think Sebastian can match Joel's sheer tenacity or his brutality. And even if I didn't add in that scenario, I'd still side with Joe, I think, more times than not. With his sharpened hearing, he's going to know where Sebastian is at the whole time and could sneak up on him while Sebastian is trying to figure out a way to sneak up on Joe and catch him off guard. In a straight up fist fight, I would side with Joe having the upper hand. Sebastian could definitely win this fight, especially in a dragged out shooting match, right? Or duel or whatever. But for the most part, I think I'm siding with Joe getting the W on this one. Joe Miller wins. Like and subscribe if you did enjoy. Leave a comment of what you think and hit the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos and all the great stuff. I'll catch you on the next one. Have a great day. Peace.